Good morning, everyone. This is Derby, your certified aromatherapist, graduate of New York Institute of Aromatic Studies. And for today, our special guest has a very extensive background on traditional Chinese medicine and herbalism, complemented with aromatherapy. She is the owner of Luff Botanicals, a Hong Kong-based clean beauty brand. She's no other than Gladys Tan.
Hi. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I'm very, very excited to have you here today on the podcast.
Oh, my pleasure.
So I was checking on your profile and I must admit I'm very, very impressed. You have quite a very extensive range of background from aromatherapy, acupressure, herbalism, traditional Chinese medicine, even perfumery.
Yes, exactly. It actually started from making skincare products for my child because who is eczema.
Oh.
And then I had to take up certifications in aromatherapy to look into the safety issues of using essential oils. And then it went on and on into herbalism, into TCM and acupuncture and all.
Wow, that's amazing. I know that you've been doing this for 14 years now.
Yes. In fact, I started doing, right around the time when my first child was born in 2004.
Wow.
So I have been doing that, and then over the years, I kept on learning and yeah.
That's so amazing. How did you go about that? I mean, what kinds of certification that you had to take to have all this mastery?
I think it really depends on where you want to go. If you're looking into just aromatherapy alone, yeah. My school, I recognized teacher, and the teacher that I learned from is none other than the grandmother of aromatherapy, Rose.
Is she from the UK, the US?
From America.
Oh.
She's based in San Francisco.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's so amazing.
I think she is now about 83 years old. So she has years and years of extensive experience. In fact, I started because at that time, I don't even remember when I first met Jeannie Rose, but I went to a school in Hong Kong. And then the class is it was in Hong Kong usually they teach aromatherapy in Cantonese.
Yes.
And I found one that, was teaching in English. And then the day before the class started, the school told us, we are not going to go forward with this class because there's only 3 of you. So we have 3 students. One who is a French lady who quitted from the banking industry, and she wanted to do something in that, the skincare or the aromatherapy wellness space. So she quitted. She wanted to take up certification in aromatherapy. And then the lady who used to have her own spa in some part of Guangzhou or Guangxi, and she had to travel 3 hours to Hong Kong just to take that course. So the 3 of us were stuck. The course is starting tomorrow. We have paid up, but the school decided not to take us. So one of them even said, how about I pay 2 times, I take the course and pay the price for 2.
Yes.
And the school decided not to take us because it's not fair to you. So we went to another school, and we went through the usual, in aromatherapy, usually we also have to learn about
Anatomy and physiology
of their body, and then we have to learn body massage, right? And aromatherapy. So I took a diploma actually in anatomy and physiology and body massage, but I stopped there because I was already so much into aromatherapy that my oils collection was way more than my teachers. And when we had blending class, we had to bring our own oils. All she did was she gave us empty bottles of oils to smell, and we couldn't try, we couldn't do anything. And then I was desperate to find a new teacher. And at that point in time, the internet was not as ready as it is today. So it was extremely difficult to find like a good source to learn aromatherapy. I researched, and then I found Jeannie Rose, who had a course which is a distance learning course. So I took her course, and but she's so detailed. She doesn't only focus on essential oils. She also focuses on, in fact, in that course that we take, besides looking into the therapeutic benefits of essential oils, we had to look into right down to the plant identification. So that's where I thought, wow, I know nothing about plant identification, and maybe I should take up herbalism. Yeah, so that's when it started, and then I continued my journey from there. As for skincare formulation, I started because while I was a full-time mom, and while sending my school to play school, I had to wait for like 3 hours, right? So what do I do in that 3 hours? And coming back is such a waste of time. So I was reading a lot of herbalism books, and I chanced upon this book. I don't remember the title now. It was a book that changed my whole perspective to what I was doing. Actually, I should thank the author. It was that book that taught me about how herbalism herbs are used, the different types of usage, from concoction to extracts to whatever not. And it was through that book that I got to know the beginning of you can say the beginning of skincare formulation. So that book also talked a little bit about making of lotions and creams and all that stuff. And I was hooked. I started making them. I bought the easiest ingredient or the most basic ingredients that you start. I started formulating, and then I was hooked. It's like you put two oils together and some emulsifier, and boom, it goes into a body cream. And I was fascinated. So from there, my journey continues.
Wow, that's a very nice background. I feel that you are the tia of everyone who's formulating there.
Oh, no. I still have a lot to learn, actually. It's a never-ending journey, actually.
I agree. I was just wondering, for our listeners who don't have a background, I was able to got in touch with Gladys because of my schoolmate in aromatherapy, and she is Beatrice. So Beatrice, if you're listening to this podcast, hello. Thank you for linking us up. I was just wondering, how did you get to know Beatrice? What's the relation?
I don't quite remember. I think she chanced upon my Instagram, and then she started asking me questions about distillation, how to do distillations, and whether, I think one of the questions she was asking was, can I do a distillation at home using my microwave? And I told her no.
I don't think so, yeah.
I said, no way. You could actually technically do a distillation using, science experiment type of equipment.
Yeah.
Yes, you could produce something, but it's not a quality hydrosol.
Oh, so are you producing your own hydrosols?
I do that on a small batch.
Wow.
I have actually learned distillation with Anne Harmon. I went to the United States to take up a course with her. She happens to be Jeannie Rose's student as well, who had gone way beyond, and she's now the guru for
distillation
and hydrosols. Yes.
Wow! I'm so jealous. You travel all over the world to learn all these things. How about your background in TCM? How did you go about that?
The TCM was because of the fact that
as I was blending aromatherapy oils and all that, I realized I'm naturally a curious person, right? So I realized that some people have got excellent skin without doing anything. They're just born with beautiful skin. Some people have got tons of skincare routine and yet their skin looks horrible. Why is that so? And I chanced upon that in Hong Kong this space, Hong Kong University space, there is a program on Chinese medicine. So I took it up and I studied for 2 years. So I had 2 diplomas in Chinese medicine related to, we call that, if any of your listeners speak Chinese, it's called 中医美容, which means, what do you call that? TCM in beauty or beauty, yeah, something along that line.
Wow. Wow. How about acupressure and perfumery? I see that Ayala Moriel also follows you on Instagram.
What do you call the acupuncture is also part of my TCM program. In TCM, in fact, when any student who goes through a TCM course, usually they will study the herbs, right? And then they will also study acupuncture, and there are many, many things that you study as well, which I didn't study because it's only a 2-year course. So I did acupuncture because that particular program was catered towards Chinese medicine from a beauty context.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I learned all the points, how they are related, what are meridians, what does it mean to our skin and things like that. And I also go into like food therapy. In the Chinese culture, you always hear people saying, "Oh, this barbecue is peaty. Watermelon is cooling," right?
Yeah.
So this heatiness and cooling effect is very common in the TCM context. Yeah, like if you are already very heaty, then you should be eating something cooling to counteract, to balance your body. But if your body is already cold, then you shouldn't be eating things like cold food. It will make your body even worse.
Yeah, it's like balancing yin and yang.
Correct. Then for perfumery, I went into perfumery because as I was blending my essential oils, I wanted to achieve what I could buy in the market, right?
Yeah.
Brands in the market. And I was wondering, why couldn't I do that? No matter how I blend, it seems I'm not quite there. And I thought, okay, I was digging, and then I found a school called the Perfumery World in Thailand, where I learned about synthetic perfumery.
Wow.
And it was wonderful because it actually talks about, we were given a lot of, essential oil. In one essential oil, there are many molecules or compounds in it.
Yes.
Multiple, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in the lab, they actually produce that and extract that particular compound.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want something to smell like a lavender, for instance, then you will have like a PEA compound or a linalool compound.
Yes.
And then, so that particular course taught me about the compounds, which I found very exciting. So I could tell and train my nose. So anybody could train your nose.
Mm-hmm.
Even by buying a single oil from different parties.
Correct.
You could actually train your oil and compare the differences. But to train even further, if you had smelled that compound, okay, that rose smells fake because it's not the real rose.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
Correct.
So that experience, I would say, give me a lot of background in identifying where my oils are and knowing whether they have been adulterated. Of course, it's not foolproof, but I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, I think so too. I do a lot of those as well. Like I do smell tests, like I call it, and smell same lavender but from different companies. And I was also checking your social media. You were also comparing like different argan oil.
Yes, yes. Because even within, like what I say, the herbalism world is very interesting. When you look at a tree, right? When you harvest the flowers or the bud, whatever, for distillation, you will realize that when you harvest at different
Different
seasons or
time.
different times
Yeah.
of the year, even different times of the day, you get a different result.
Correct.
Yeah. So even if I were to buy the same oil from the same source, the same farm, even if they were to harvest it in the same time in July every year, it will still be different.
Correct.
Because the plants are, if they are attacked by insects, whatever, they have their own mechanism to produce some compounds that we don't know, and that makes it different.
Correct.
So which makes it very exciting, because when people talk about essential oils, people are always talking GCMS imported. You heard about GCMS?
Of course, of course.
What do you think about it?
I think it's a good basis, but it's not an end-all be-all. Like a lot of artisan home distillers wouldn't afford to have their oils tested by GCMS. So how about that, right? How about you? What's your take on that?
I feel that with the GCMS, it helps us to understand what is the oil compounds in terms of properties, the medicinal properties, and things like that. But like what you said, it is not, like, it doesn't mean that somebody with the GCMS will have the best of the oil, because even that can be adulterated.
Even the document can be bought. It can be bought by money, right?
Yeah, so I would go for trust instead, trusting the company that sells you the oil.
Wow, so in Hong Kong, is it very accessible to access all these raw materials, essential oils? Like, I'm sure in the United States it's very easy. In Europe, it's very easy. But sometimes I feel that here in Asia, like here in the Philippines, I'm not sure with Hong Kong, is it easy to access all those raw materials? Like, for example, argan oil, is it easy for you to buy quality argan oil?
I have tried purchasing argan oil here, but it's not comparable to the one that I source directly from Morocco, for instance. So I do source my oils from all over the world. Some things are sourced in Hong Kong. It depends on the ingredients. What is the ingredient? If it's imported, that I source all the way from different parts of the world, because I have to look into the cost, the sustainability, and I believe, in fact, I personally think that Philippines is such a beautiful country. There are lots of plants. In fact, I don't know. I'm sure there will be people doing distillations there, and in fact, it's a good place if you have a source to do some distillation, for instance, because there are so many local plants that Philippines has that other parts of the world don't have. And in fact, a lot of oils come from this part of the region, right? Like Indonesia, India, and Philippines as well.
I agree.
Philippines produce very good coconut oil, right?
Yes. Actually, my dream is to buy my own still, because I also want to distill my own oils. But I'm not going to be like Beatrice. I'm not going to use the microwave. I plan to buy the still, and I also plan to try to produce some. In the Philippines, I think we have an abundance of ilang-ilang.
Wow, I want to be there.
Oh, it's my favorite. And we also have a lot of elemi resin here.
Wow.
So when you come over, I will try to give you some.
That's why I say Philippines is beautiful. In fact, it's all around us, whether we know how to identify them. Right?
Yeah.
Because aromatherapy started from the UK and then States and Australia. I think a lot of oils are from these three places.
Correct.
But there are very good oils from Indonesia, from India as well, and Philippines.
Have you ever visited our country, the Philippines?
Yes, I have been to the Philippines around 1991, 1992.
Wow!
I was working then, and it was a business trip.
Wow! So which part of the Philippines did you go? Only in Manila?
Only in Manila.
Okay, next time, when you have a chance, I can take you around.
Oh, that would be fantastic.
Alright, so how about Luff Botanicals, Gladys? Can you tell me what's Luff Botanicals? What's the story behind the name itself?
Okay, it's strange that you asked that because somebody was asking me, oh, what does love actually mean? It started because I was doing a lot of formulation, and then I do sell on a small scale basis, like more on the custom formulation. Then my friend was asking me a lot of questions about aromatherapy, copying information from the internet, and I told her that the internet is a wonderful thing. But at the same time, there are a lot of sources that are incorrect. So I told her about all the bluffs and fluffs. I said, if you take away the B and the F, what you have love. Okay, we shall call it Luff Botanicals.
That's very creative. That's very creative. How long have you been doing Luff Botanicals?
I actually, like what I said, I started in 2004. I didn't do any selling at all for years and years. I was making them, I was sharing using them on my family, and sharing them with friends and relatives, right? It was only in like the recent 2 years that people are asking me to formulate for them, that I do custom formulations. So whether it's soaps or lotions or perfumery, basically skincare from head to toe, even like hair scalp oil or body scrubs and things like that. And that was when I decided that maybe I should start my Instagram account. So my Instagram was really, I started my Instagram to see where this would lead.
Wow, that's so good. I mean, I was trying to browse through your account and I see that there are a lot of people sending in their questions. There are a lot of people who are asking about their skin and its relationship with TCM, and I see that you're able to answer each and every question in a very easily digestible manner, like even a layperson can understand it.
Oh, I'm glad you say that because this idea came up about 3 days ago. I suddenly had this idea, because other people may not exactly know what you do, right? And you are the best person to tell people what you do. So I decided to kind of like compile all the questions over the years that people have, and a lot of times people don't know they have a problem, especially when it comes to the integrated approach.
Correct.
Medicine and all. I mean, they don't know what they don't know, so they cannot link it to that particular problem. So about 2-3 days ago, I started this series on my Instagram story called You Ask, I Answer. So when you ask me a skincare problem, or maybe you have a question about aromatherapy blending or what oils to use, then I will give you my answer. And my answer is not just based on aromatherapy. Because of my training, I look at all of this as a total approach. So, in other words, is your skincare problem necessarily only healed by using essential oils? Sometimes not. Sometimes it is better not to use them. In fact, we see a lot of over-usage in essential oils because people do not recognize that one drop of essential oils actually has got so much plant material going in. You only realize that until you see for yourself the distillation process, how much plants goes in there.
Correct.
Right? And so I look at it as a total approach, and sometimes it could be, let me give you two case studies for this.
Okay.
Recently, my son had I don't know how he got that. He had a kind of a keloid on his thigh. And then this part of his skin starts to have skin infection, right? As if you are an aromatherapist, right, you would probably think about, okay, what oil to use. And I didn't even use that because there's this saying in Chinese medicine, if you can, okay, food and medicine comes from the same source.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can use food to heal something, you wouldn't use medicine.
Correct.
So you want to use the mildest and the safest to heal somebody, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's also about sustainability, right? So when I did that, I actually used clove. We all have clove.
Yes.
Philippines has lots of clove, right?
Correct.
And I pounded the clove. I just used a few cloves. I pounded it into powder. I applied a little and put it on the skin and put a sort of what do you call it, a cotton patch over it. And let it stay there for 1-2 hours. It was healed.
Wow.
Simple. Yeah. And in that process, I only added a bit of clove hydrosol that I made. So it was clove hydrosol plus clove powder. I don't even use like anything else. And he got healed.
Yeah.
So he was very amazed. I mean, he was very amazed. And another case study was a listener, right? She actually sent a Christian. It was on her ear and around her neck area. So I recommended some blends for her to help with her problem. And I also pointed out to her that that part of that skin is connected to the sun meridian.
What do you mean by that?
Okay, so meridian is in the Chinese medicine, acupuncture has got 14 meridians in our body. So you imagine meridians are like pathways. So imagine if your body is a vast network, there are different buses that go around the city, right?
Correct.
So different pathways pass by different organs. So her problem happens to pass by the sun meridian, which when I look at it, it links to the womb. So I highlighted to her that yes, essential oils can help you. They can help you to relieve the problem. But if this problem keeps recurring, sometimes we have info, we apply and it's gone.
Correct.
Right? I'm not saying that it's always associated with health issues.
Correct.
But sometimes so for her case, I told her you might want to look into her endocrine issues. Is there an endocrine disorder? Is there some menstrual issue that she is currently encountering? And she sent me a message saying that I have PCOS.
Polycystic ovaries, yes.
Correct. So you see, this is how amazing acupuncture is. You could actually link it back if you know them. And I'm not saying, of course, I'm not a doctor. I can't heal her.
Correct.
I can't do surgery on her. But having information like that helps her to understand that, wow, actually, TCM is amazing.
Yeah.
If we understand how to use them.
Yeah, I
apply
agree.
it in our daily lives.
Yeah, I agree. And you took that for 2 years studying TCM.
Yes.
Wow, that's amazing.
I wanted to proceed further, but the local university didn't accept me.
Oh, I think
Because the full-time Chinese medicine course study is 5 years. And they only I actually applied to one of the universities. They only have like 20 spaces. And most of their students are young kids around 17, 18.
Wow.
So over there.
Wow, these are like college students.
Yes, yes.
Oh, I see. Wow. I have no background in TCM, but because I was raised in a Chinese family.
Right. So you should have some knowledge, I believe.
Yes.
In terms of like diet-wise, what to eat, what not to eat
Yes.
for your body type. Because in TCM, actually, there are 12 body types.
Oh, can you walk us through that?
Wow, offhand I couldn't, remember. Suddenly you asked me that. But there are 12 types. So you could be dampness.
Mm-hmm.
I have to translate that, from Chinese to English. But there are basically 12 body types in our body.
Mm-hmm.
So each one of us is inclined to one,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or perhaps a mixture. So if your body is always filled with heat and dampness, then you will have problems associated with that.
Correct, correct. I think I read something about like if your body is either hot or cold or damp, like or a mixture of those, right?
Right, right.
And so it would also depend on which food that you should eat more, which food you should stay away from.
Exactly. In fact, when my parents or grandparents or people that you know,
Yeah.
right, tell you about this food you shouldn't be eating, this food you shouldn't be eating that food, I used to find that it's non-scientific. I thought it's total BS. And then then that made me wonder why, what is that logic? There's no logic at all. So in fact, way beyond I started this, because I was already studying about, is this a whole grandmother story? Is a whole grandmother tale? It's scientific. So I was already reading about that since the 1990s. Yeah, but it was only until I got into that TCM program that it made me understand, and then I got totally switched.
Yeah, it made sense finally.
Yes, it makes sense. Even in my pregnancy, I had 2 boys, and both my pregnancy were early delivery.
Oh.
Normally for women, the pregnancy is like you will deliver at about 40 weeks.
Yeah.
Mine was something like my kids were born when they were at about 34, 34 weeks,
Oh.
around there. So they were super tiny.
Mm-hmm.
They were like half the size of a normal size baby.
Oh. Why is it so?
Nobody knows. Doctors couldn't tell me, but I personally associated it as maybe I took the wrong advice. My obstetrician or my gynae tell me not to eat bitter gourd, right? Because bitter gourd is a cooling food. And when you are in the early stages of pregnancy, usually people say avoid bitter gourd. And I took it literally, and I was like literally avoiding it, right? I even avoided chili, which was my favorite. Then, before they were born, I felt that my body was like, there was an expansion or an explosion inside. I feel really hot.
Yeah.
So, listen to your body. In other words, even if somebody tells you bitter gourd is cooling, it doesn't mean you should avoid it throughout your whole life. It depends on the stage of your body at that time.
Correct.
So in your stage of your body, if you are suffering from heat stroke, for instance, yes, bitter gourd soup, bitter gourd with fried egg is wonderful. It will help you kind of like
Cool down.
Okay. But if you are already you're always having a big tummy, right? No matter how you exercise, you can't slim it down. And if that is caused by too much cold in your digestive system, and you eat bitter gourd, it's going to make it worse. So even when I do a blending, if somebody asks me to do a blending, I don't just blend an indigestion blend for the sake of blending. I will look into, what causes that problem,
Correct.
what causes the indigestion problem, and then I try to use that approach, use that training to do the right blending for them.
I think that's a better way of doing it. It's like a multidisciplinary approach instead of just using oils. Like in your example earlier with your son, if you only had a background in aromatherapy, perhaps you would try to use clove essential oil on your son, and that's not a good idea because it can burn his skin, right?
Exactly, because clove is very sensitive.
Correct.
Clove hydrosol is a wonderful, it smells wonderful, it's good. I even use it in my hand sanitizer.
Wow. Yeah, that's right.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's right. Because of your background, you know that, there are other means of managing things and not just closed off on aromatherapy.
Exactly.
So, Gladys, could you please share with us, I saw your post about essential oils and anxiety and how it relates to the 7 emotions of TCM. Could you walk us through that? I'm sure our listeners would be interested to know, especially now at this pandemic. Everybody's just so anxious with all the uncertainties.
Oh, okay. The 7 emotions.
Correct.
Right. There are 7 emotions. And I'll just run that through. It's called joy, anger, worry, or sadness, overthinking, grief, fear, and shock. So let's just take one example.
Okay.
Overthink. Right. A lot of us overthink because we worry too much. And sometimes stress could make us overthink. So stress is, from the Chinese medicine context, is related to the liver organ, right? And when you say liver organ, it's not just the organ itself, but it's, how would I explain it? It's not just the organ itself, but the whole function.
Yes, it's a system.
And it's a system, correct. And if your liver, if you have so much stress or even depression or whatever, you will actually cause problem in your spleen. So this liver will affect another organ, which is your spleen. And when you look at biology, very often we don't even realize what is the function of spleen. Do you remember?
I don't, honestly.
So most of us would think that the spleen is, something not quite useful. It can be cut off or whatsoever. But from a TCM context, the spleen is one of the most important thing in our body. Because the spleen, imagine the spleen is like our delivery man. Okay? When we eat something, the nutrients, and we absorb the nutrients, the delivery guy is the one who delivers these nutrients to different parts of our body.
Oh.
It's not working. They are not absorbing the food.
Correct.
They are not absorbing the nutrients. So you could be eating the best vitamins and food in the world, and your body is still not absorbing it. And why is that so? Then you have to look into your spleen function, which means that you have to strengthen your spleen. So by strengthening your spleen, it allows for better food absorption, better digestive system.
How do you strengthen the spleen?
There are many ways to strengthen this. One is if you're always angry, it will actually cause this spleen to sort of have an imbalance. So we have to be mindful about our emotions, which is why these are different from emotions. The emotions also connects to our whole system. And we have to have a sort of be chill. And yes, and then constant dieting, suddenly eating too much, suddenly having a big party, having a big buffet, and not eating for the next 3 days. That kind of thing is bad for the spleen. It causes the gate, causes the spleen to malfunction. Then And how we eat our food. If we eat too fast, again, that will cause that to malfunction. So there are many things that will cause our spleen to go off. So, and spleen is also known as the humidifier of our body.
Oh.
So you mentioned about dampness. In Hong Kong, I can tell you, I never knew what dampness really was. I come from Singapore. I'm born in Singapore.
Oh.
And we used to say that, oh, it's so wet and
Humid.
humid in Singapore. But I didn't realize until I came to Hong Kong. Oh my God, Singapore is nothing. Hong Kong is really humid. Sometimes humidity gets into you, that you get trapped and you feel so uncomfortable.
Yeah, sticky.
Sticky, achy, your legs are heavy, you feel lazy, you feel sleepy. So these are all due to the problem of dampness.
Oh.
And to if you come visit Hong Kong, you will have a lot of places or stores that sell Chinese herbal soup, right? And they will have a lot of recipes that say, this drink is good to clear dampness, this soup is good to clear dampness. While that is good, okay, it helps you, it helps us. And when you drink such food, it sort of it's a diuretic. It clears, it helps you go to the toilet more, so you get rid of the excess dampness. But if you are constantly having the same problem, then you should be looking at the spleen function, how to strengthen it.
I see. Wow.
So it's only by strengthening the spleen that you can, like I personally have this problem. My husband will have this problem because his spleen is in a better condition than mine.
Oh.
So for me, when the weather gets cold and wet, I feel it.
Oh.
Then I have to do something about it by either taking the right types of food, the dampness to help and to strengthen, at the same time to strengthen my skin. But my husband never had this problem. This is not part of his, what we call it, he doesn't have this problem. So he never encountered the issues that I've encountered.
I see. So can you share with our listeners what kinds of food does it take to help you with your spleen?
The spleen likes food that are quite bland actually.
Oh.
The spleen is associated with the color of yellow. So it tends to be yellow food like
Squash?
Yeah, squash like pumpkin. Pumpkin is actually warming. Our stomach likes warming food. So imagine when you drink a cup of water, cold water, or even you're cooking, right? You imagine, just imagine.
Yeah.
You do make lotions and all that. So just imagine, if you have coconut oil and you pour a cup of cold water,
It's gonna harden.
It hardens. So the same thing happens in our system. So when our food or our fats harden, it makes it more difficult to digest. So we are actually added burden to the body. Okay? So food like pumpkin, squash, sweet potato, lotus seed.
Oh, yeah.
The lotus
Yes.
flower. The lotus plant is very amazing. Every part of the plant is good.
I know the moon cake with lotus paste.
Lotus is good. There's this thing that looks a little bit, that resembles a little bit like barley. It's called, I don't have the name in English right now. It's called tian shi in Chinese. It's called qin in Cantonese. That is one of the foods that is excellent for the skin. And these two foods are black in taste, right? Barley is good. Barley is good for the skin as well. It also helps to remove dampness. And there are two types of barley, or actually more than two types of barley.
Oh.
One is the Chinese barley. The Chinese barley has got a better property in terms of removing dampness.
Oh.
There is another type of barley, we call it the Western barley.
Oh.
Is what we use to cook the desserts. Soft, chewy, tasty versus the Chinese barley. That one is also a form of barley. But the function of removing dampness and strengthening the skin, that Chinese barley is good for.
Wow. It's my...
And then there's another, and there's one more type of barley called cooked barley. It looks like popcorn.
Wow.
Has undergone the process of cooking, and so it literally looks like a popcorn. So if you compare, say, the Chinese barley and the cooked barley, the Chinese barley we call it is uncooked, raw. The cooked barley looks like it has been processed. It looks like popcorn. That is more warming in nature than the Chinese barley. So even though they are barley, they are considered,
different.
Cold in general, they have different degrees of heat or coldness in them.
Oh, wow.
And in a herb, you have the way the herb is processed, or the way it has been treated, will give you different properties.
Oh.
So it resembles our aromatherapy.
Correct.
Like the orange tree, remember?
Correct.
You want to share that?
Yeah, so from the root to the trunk to the leaves to the fruit, same plant but different oils produced.
Exactly. And what are they?
Oh, we have neroli,
Flowers,
and then we have the leaves.
the petit grain,
Yes, and we have the fruit.
which is the
Sweet orange. Yeah.
It's so interesting.
Gladys, you're testing me. Huh?
Oh, no. We are just learning from each other. I believe that every one of us has our uniqueness, and our unique experience that we can share and learn from each other.
But I'm curious, what is your advice for our listeners who are experiencing extreme stress and anxiety at this time? What can they do in terms of, I guess, essential oils or herbalism? Is there anything that can make in their homes to help them improve their emotions?
Emotions. Okay, I think the first thing is we have to be mindful. We are all living in a very stressful world.
Correct.
Stresses from all sorts, from COVID and from not working, not going to work, having to stay at home, manage the children and work and all that. So we really look into the mindfulness. I think it will be good. I started meditating a few months back, and I see good improvement. I would encourage everybody to start meditating. Spend 10 minutes, go follow some meditators out there, calm our mind, or focus on our breathing. You don't have to be too worried about your thoughts. You can have thoughts will come, you let them pass. Just like, imagine it's like advertisement. Just let them pass. Right? Concentrate on your breathing. Let your breathing slow down. So when you are anxious, I think every day if you spend 10 minutes with good. In terms of tea, I personally like something easily available with rose and chamomile. Tea can actually help you calm you down, just like chamomile. So you don't have to make it complicated. Just use 3 petals of rose, some chamomile, and add hot boiling water and steep it like a tea. So if you want to drink it sweet, you can add a little bit of sugar. If you don't want sweetness, then just leave it. Leave it as it is. It will be slightly floral in taste and it helps. But at the end of the day, it's how we train our mind to calm down. And essential oils can help. Like rose is not just a tea, but it's also an essential oil. Of course, it's very expensive.
Yeah.
I would like to use personally, oils like frankincense, the woody oils, I find that very calming.
Mm-hmm.
Frankincense, cedarwood, which is the Cedrus atlantica,
Mm-hmm.
right? I like lemon, even though lemon is not exactly, you don't really, maybe most people don't think it as an anti-anxiety oil.
Correct.
But the smell of lemon is really uplifting. It makes us happy.
Correct.
So it shifts you from that and you should stick to a happy.
Mm-hmm.
So these are the oils that I would recommend. And then exercising, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Exercising is a good way to de-stress. And we talk about acupuncture points. I've got 3 acupuncture points that help.
Okay.
I hope your listeners can remember that, because acupuncture can be quite complex and it's like, oh, what did she just say?
Okay, let's hear it.
Okay, so the first point is HT7.
So where is that?
It's called Shen Men.
Oh, on your ear?
Not on the ear. On the ear there's one, but I'm referring to the one on the hand.
Oh.
So if you open your
Palm.
your palm and face it upwards,
Mhm.
right? So between your forefinger
Okay.
and your pinky,
Okay.
so in the middle,
Yes.
exactly where you're pointing, travel down all the way to the wrist.
Oh, wrist.
Where you have horizontal line.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so massage on that point.
Oh.
So this point helps to relieve us from our anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
This particular point is connected to our heart radius.
Heart meridian. Okay.
Yes. So if you have a pre-blended essential oil, you can even put some oils on this point and massage it.
Mhm.
How many minutes to massage? I would say 3 to 5 minutes is a good time.
Mm-hmm.
If your fingers are long, then you may want to use a tool, like a gua sha tool, like a massage tool,
Mm-hmm.
or make sure it's sterilized, make sure it's clean,
Mm-hmm.
or you can use your knuckles,
Yes.
and then you use your knuckles and you do that. Press it down.
Oh.
So when
Okay.
you press, you could actually feel a little bit, I wouldn't describe it painful. Why don't you try it now?
It's good.
You
It's
could feel it actually.
yeah.
So that's easy, that's on the hands. The second point is PC8.
PC8. Where is
Okay.
it?
In Chinese, it's called Lao Gong Xue.
Mm-hmm.
LAOGONG.
Okay.
Okay, it's also on the palms.
Mm-hmm.
So when you open your palms, close your palms. You close your fingers. And somewhere between the forefinger and the middle finger,
Okay. Forefinger and middle finger.
in between.
Mm-hmm.
So you close it,
Yes.
close the fingers, right? When you close your fingers like that,
Okay.
the tip of the fingers actually touches the middle part of the
Yes.
palm. Yeah. So you want to look for the point which is between the
Oh. Okay. So here.
yes, and that is the Lao Gong Xue. The third point is actually on our feet actually.
Oh, feet. Okay.
Yes. So okay, before I go on, these 2 points that I mentioned is available.
On your hands.
Can be found on both hands.
Okay.
It doesn't matter which part, okay? Then the third point is on the feet. It's
Mhm.
called liver 3.
Oh,
So
liver
if you
3.
look for liver 3 on the internet, you will be able to find it. In Chinese, it's called Tai Chong Xue.
Mm-hmm.
Tai Chong Xue is if you look down at your toe, at your feet,
Yes.
between your big toe
Mm-hmm.
and the middle and
The second toe.
and the second toe.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Right. You travel down
Mm-hmm.
the metatarsal bone,
Mm-hmm.
right? As you travel down, you will reach a point where the 2 bones kind of like
Separate.
connect.
Oh, okay.
Not separate, but connect.
Connect.
Like a
Okay.
right? That point is LV3.
Oh.
And this LV3 is particularly good for people who are suffering from stress, from depression, unhappiness. Yeah. So massage, in fact, even as I massage this point, I can feel it.
Yeah, it's good. I'm doing it now.
Yeah. So all these 3 points, you could use it, you could do it at home.
Mm,
You could be working and you could be massaging at the same time.
correct.
You don't have to use essential oils, but if you do have, it's a good combination.
I see. So for the oils you mentioned earlier, it's lemon, cedarwood, and is it orange?
Frankincense.
Frankincense. How many drops of each oil?
Okay, how many drops of each oil? Normally we will, if you are looking into the, say, 10 ml.
Yes.
If you are looking into 10 ml. A combination of 4 drops maximum. 4 drops will be based on roughly a 2% dilution.
Cool.
So if you're using frankincense, you use 4 drops of frankincense and 10 ml of carrier oil. Carrier oil can be coconut oil, sweet almond oil, or any one of the oils you have at home.
What is your most favorite carrier oil to use?
My most favorite carrier oil is jojoba oil
Why is that so?
because it's considerably quite easily available
Oh,
and has got a it has mainly because it has a long shelf life,
yes.
and I don't worry about it going expensive. The different carrier oils have got different shelf life,
Correct.
and with our weather in Hong Kong and in Philippines is so hot,
Yes.
right? And oils are so expensive, we want to keep them and make sure they don't go rancid that easily.
Correct. How about fractionated coconut oil?
Fractionated coconut oil can be used as well, no problem. Yeah, people use fractionated coconut oil because it has been processed and the coconut smell has been extracted. Right?
Correct.
So it really depends on the usage. If you are looking into properties of the oil, then coconut oil itself has got very lovely properties.
Correct.
But sometimes, yes, we do use fractionated. I know it sounds bad because it's processed, but not all processed things are bad.
Correct.
Because some things are processed for a good reason.
Correct. Gladys.
And some people do not like the sense of coconut.
Agree.
Coconut oil works well and it's cheap. And
Agree.
it's affordable.
Agree. So Gladys, one last question before we end the session. Okay. Since you also do cosmetic formulations, what is your take on preservatives and what is your favorite preservative to use?
I don't have a particular preferred preservatives because it all depends on my formulation. I think the word preservatives have been, how would I use? Have been, I can't find the word. Okay, maybe I will say this. I started off making skincare because I wanted no preservatives. And then I realized how silly is that. Because even when I cook rice, the next morning, the rice will go, it's not edible anymore.
Correct.
And it's sour. So why? Because rice is a form of botanical as well in a sense. And it has water content in it.
Correct.
So anything that has water will go bad. And
Correct.
it is very important to use preservatives. If you look into the internet, people are saying, don't use preservatives, it's bad. I disagree. There's a reason why chemists invented preservatives. Unless your skincare has got high salt content, or high sugar content, which is the common preservatives that people have been using for centuries. you need the preservatives. And it's only safe to do that. So the percentage of preservatives in cosmetic formulation is very low anyway.
Correct.
So there is always an option to choose if you are not looking to avoid parabens, then you look into non-parabens preservatives. But to avoid it totally or to make skincare without to make DIY skincare without preservatives is easy.
Correct.
So for your own safety, for whoever you are giving it to, please preserve them well.
Correct. I agree. In the recent, perhaps, decade, parabens and preservatives have been getting a lot of flack, a lot of negative articles, negative comments, right? And I guess little did everyone know that if you are formulating something, especially if it has water content, like you mentioned, a preservative is actually needed. It's actually more dangerous to sell or to give DIY formulation without any form of preservative. It doesn't have to be a paraben, but right now our skincare industry or our I guess clean beauty industry is more advanced, and we have a lot of options right now, right? So I was wondering, what kind of preservative are you using?
That's why I said, because there are so many options, I do not have, I can't name a particular preservative because it really depends on your formulation. I wouldn't want to tell you that this preservative is good because you have to look at your own formulation.
Correct.
And see, do a challenge test to see whether this particular preservative works in your case. So even in my own formulation, sometimes these preservatives work, sometimes these don't, and I have to make changes. So I am in fact currently working with my niece to come up with a line called Intended Skincare.
Oh.
And we are working on the product, and we are doing lots of back end testings and all that, and we will have to send for testings. Ideally, there are many people who do testings by themselves, right? And then they start selling, or maybe they don't even test it.
Yeah.
And to me, that is just being irresponsible.
Irresponsible, I agree.
Yes, it's scary because if I were to give you a lotion, right? I know it's properly preserved, and I give it to you. I can tell you. But if you're selling over the internet, somebody buys it, and the person give it as a gift. There's so many channels that go through. I don't know how the person uses it. Maybe the person comes home from outside, never wash hands and bring into that lotion. I don't know. The COVID makes me even more
Correct. Paranoid.
I am OC, so we have to be really careful about our skincare formulation and have it correctly preserved.
That's right. And you talked about third-party testing.
Yes, I mentioned to you that I am actually working with my niece on a different skincare line called the Candid Skincare. And we are coming up with a product which we will send to a lab for third-party testing, because by not doing, by sending to a third-party testing, it gives people a peace of mind.
Correct. Okay. So is there anything that you would want to share with our listeners? Is there anything that you would want to announce?
What I would want to tell your listeners is look at skincare, look at aromatherapy from a total concept, because there are so many ways of using it, and sometimes you may not necessarily use essential oils. You can be using the actual herbs itself. Maybe instead of essential oil, you can be looking into a herbal infusion, for instance, right? Especially for younger skin.
Or hydrosols.
Or hydrosols, definitely. Hydrosols is wonderful. I recently have made my own cucumber hydrosol
Wow.
for my son who was burnt, who had a terrible sunburn. So I was spraying hydrosol and it healed him very quickly.
Wow. So
And another thing I would like to share with your listener is that I will be coming out with my own blog called www.lovebotanicals.com. So if you are interested in anything about aromatherapy and my total approach, how I look into aromatherapy using different modalities, please come and join me. It has not been, I have not uploaded anything, but if you could actually subscribe, and then when it's ready, I will talk to you.
Of course. So to everyone listening in this episode, don't forget to check out Gladys and her beautiful blog. That's www.luffbotanicals.com. And will your products be available internationally?
We are not sure yet, but we will definitely start with probably Singapore and Hong Kong for a start. And then we'll see how, because the logistics parts of selling skincare can be quite a nightmare.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you so much for today, Gladys. I enjoyed our session. Thank you so much for that very informative and refreshing topic, to be honest, because we've never really talked about TCM here and all the meridians. It's really very unique and interesting.
My honor.
Thank you. I hope to see you around. Bye.
Bye.
So I hope you've enjoyed today's episode here on my podcast. To receive updates or new episode alerts, don't forget to follow us here on Spotify. Or to get more updates from me, don't forget to follow me on Instagram at HappyOilerPH. And I'll see you on my next Live Well with Aromatherapist, Jerby Go.